Hello, I'm going to be talking about my lesson plan. My lesson plan is going to be Anne Frank's Diary, lesson number 1. We'll be introducing Anne Frank, her family, and the secret annex where they lived. This lesson plan is for 7th grade language arts classes. The lesson plan will fulfill, let's look a little closer, the Language Arts Utah Core Standards Reading Text Standard 1, Reading Informational Text Standard 3, and Standard 6. And you can click on this to go and look a little bit closer at the standards. And then, okay, so the objective, let's make this a little bit smaller now, is to introduce Anne Frank's Diary, the unit. We'll spend a day learning all about her. We'll talk about why the Frank family was hiding, who they were hiding with, and brainstorm some of the difficulties that would arise from such an arrangement. We use online resources to look at the secret annex where the Frank family and their neighbors lived in Amsterdam. Okay, so we're going to zoom in just a little bit more. Oops, I mean out. Too far. Okay. So the beginning of my lesson, for my hook, I will ask the students a question. And there's a link right here to a Google form. We'll ask them the question, imagine you're going to be banished to a deserted island. You have no idea how long you'll be there. And then I'm going to have them put their names so I know who it is. And then who would they bring with them? What would they pack? And then together as a class, we'll look at their answers. And of course, I will be able to look at their answers right here. We can do them individually or as a group. So there's that for the hook. So we're going to have the kids answer those questions and then we'll talk about them together. So then I'll be telling the kids, the students, I don't know why I'm having such a hard time with this. Okay. There have been times in history when people have no longer been safe in their homeland and have been forced to leave, hide, or die. This unit will be reading Anne Frank's diary. During World War II, Anne and her family escaped Nazi capture by fleeing to Amsterdam. They knew that they were going to be captured and so decided to hide. They had very little time to prepare. They agreed to help hide other members of their community from danger. Anne Frank, along with her family and a few neighbors, lived in the annex for 2 years. So as part of this, I want to discuss their deserted island answers and just see what their thoughts were on what they would take with them. And then we'll be discussing who Anne Frank had with her and the things that she brought. As part of it, there are other things we'll talk about too. So as a class, we'll watch this together. This is a video on annefrank.org. And it talks about her life. It talks about the time surrounding her life. There's a lot of things that it talks about, and it's about 4.5, almost 5 minutes. So we'll watch that together as a class. And then I will sort of set them free with their laptops. This website is really cool. There's a link right there that takes you to the Anne Frank, and they can watch this video again that we just watched, or they can look at the secret annex. And I wanted to go into this a little bit. You can actually go inside the annex and see what it looks like now. They actually have tours that they'll take you on. And so this is the landing. So if you click on these doors, it takes you into different parts of the house. So upstairs, this is where the room is. This is where Herman and Auguste live. This is also where the kitchen is. If you click on these things, it'll take you into Peter's room. And then you can go up into the attic. And you can use the cursor to kind of look around at what the rooms looked like. And on each of the things, there's also stories and there's extra videos that the kids can look at that talks about, this one's the window. She would go up into the attic and she would take that time to be by herself. There's a few places where it talks about their clothing, for example. So like right here, it will talk about Peter's clothes. If you go out into this room, it'll talk about the kitchen. It talks about, things that happen in the book. So the kids will be able to spend a bunch of time, a huge chunk of time, mostly spending with this website. So I'm actually just going to go to the link again. Well, let's just go to this one. So this is more in-depth. So this is actually looking at more information. So they can look at what happened, how Germany went from democracy to dictatorship, and then there's a typical day in the secret annex, and it just kind of walks you through what things were like. Even though they haven't read the book, I think it's good for them to have an idea of what things were like before they start reading it. So then when they're done with that, I want to discuss with the class what they learned. So I put these questions here to help them sort of engage in a conversation. What did you learn that you didn't know before? Would you answer your deserted island question the same way? Would you change it? Why do you think Anne Frank has become so important in literature? So great as far as grading, and then we'll continue that until it's time to go. As far as grading, they'll be graded for their responses to the Google form. But the biggest point of the lesson is just to introduce them to Anne Frank. According to the standards that we'll be doing, they are going to need to analyze the interactions between the individuals, events, and ideas. And so to help them with that, they're going to learn about the individuals, and then they're going to determine the author's point of view and their purpose in the text. And of course, that's Anne Frank. And so they'll be able to talk about that. And then as they write their essays at the end of the lesson plan, they'll have to use textual evidence in order to be able to do that. So that is my lesson plan.